My life is a Teenage Von Neuman device. Chapter 13. Utterly relaxed, Fexus closed her eyes and soaked in the sensation of her warm bath. Only her head and shoulders remained above the swirling, heated chemicals that soothed her thin skin and massaged her tired servos. After a stressful day, a nice soak was exactly what she needed. Jenny's friends had staged a rescue attempt, ruining the wedding she had planned out so meticulously. And even now, Jenny had yet to be found. A number of the rebels had escaped after the attack, assuring that there would be further executions, especially since he now had their leader, her daughter Nexus.
"The prisoner, Princess Nexus, as you commanded, your majesty,"
announced one of the royal guards, escorting her bound daughter into the room. Faces opened her eyes and smiled. As strange as they may be, she was still pleased to see her daughter return to her. "Hello, mother," greeted Nexus icily. Festus waved away the guards, disliking seeing any number of the royal family tied up. There was no need, after all. Nexus's ability had been neutralized by the EM weapon the day before, and there were guards posted at every doorway watching her every move. Nexus rubbed her sore wrists, now freed from her restraints. Festus leaned up against the edge of the tub, resting her arms on the lip of the pool, lifting herself up until the water was only at mid-belly. Her wet, naked breasts did not go unnoticed by the guards' presence. Of course, none of them were so much as allowed to blink while they were at the posts. Festus grinned maliciously, enjoying his social torture that she could so casually inflict on her bodyguards. "Come in, Nexus. Enjoy a quick dip in the hot tub. I think it'll help even out the temper of yours a little," said Festus, beckoning her daughter to join her. Nexus shrugged. "I prefer not, if it's all the same." "It was not a request." Festus snapped with a frown, mulching over a pair of guards. I tried my best not to imagine how hot Festus must be underneath all that armor. But this fic is not making it easy. Understanding their queen's intentions, the burly guard seized Nexus and hastily began removing her armor. In under a minute, Nexus was stripped bare and shoved roughly towards the pool. Hastily sliding into the wisp to obscure her lower half, Nexus cupped her hands over her tits to hide her nipples from view. Not nearly as comfortable with the guards watching as Festus was. Plucking a squirming, metal strip-like creature out of the floating bowl of appetizers, Nexus then passed the tray over Nexus. "You remember when this used to be a favorite of yours when you were little." Nexus ignored it, keeping her hands firmly on her chest, regarding it with little distaste. "Fine, don't eat it then. More for me," grumbled Festus, popping the morsel in her mouth and shredding it with her teeth. Nexus scowled. "Could you dispense with the pleasantries and get to why I'm here, please? We've never gotten along before, so I'm sure you're not deluded enough to think one afternoon of mother-daughter bonding in your spa can turn things around. If you just wanted to sit around and get a pedicure, I think I prefer my cell." Festus regarded her daughter with a sharp eye, and loudly swallowed her food. "Fine, then. I see your time away from the family hasn't done much for your attitude." Festus sighed, took a deep breath, and began. "I wanted to talk to you about this whole rebellion phase of yours. I know children often go through a period of disobedience towards their parents, but lately it's become quite an annoyance. I had to put up a lot of effort into XG9's wedding. Your attack has put the schedule back by days, so I'm asking you, please end this foolishness. I'm a very forgiving woman. If you tell your underlings to give up their struggle, I can welcome you back into the family and put all of this behind us." "An annoyance?" Nexus was incensed. She spent months of hard work organizing a resistance for nothing but the dissatisfied grumblings of the Sinistery. "Last I checked, Mother, the cluster hierarchy was not in a very powerful position. Petty bureaucrats and outdated customs are what was weighing down this empire, making it weak. What the cluster desperately needs is sweeping reform, creating a newly invigorated empire for the asses of the old." Nexus nearly sighed, her voice rising in volume as she fell back on radical rhetoric. Festus scoffed, patronizing her daughter. "The cluster is threatened, my dear, but not by you. Your pathetic little army cannot hope to oust me. Need I remind you that I am Queen Vexus? Entire planets quake in my fear of my approach. I am beloved by the Chancery and cannot be dethroned until I choose to give up my power to my successor. Vexus's eyes flash with anger, her claws sticking into the side of the poles. You're making a maniacal, stated Nexus with contempt. Festus's anger disappeared, replaced with laughter. Oh yes, a little. Insanity does run in the family, after all. This is the real problem, actually. Festus quirked an eyebrow, amused. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that you did overthrow me. How would that make things any better? You have the same crooked family tree that I do. The cluster will continue to collapse, so as long as we continue to produce half-mad, half-deformed rulers. And it's not as if you could marry a X9. I can't believe this. I knew cluster was evil, but to not be progressive? My God! Equal marriage rights, yo! Come on! Do it the time, Vexus! So you really have no choice but to allow her marriage to Brutus to proceed as by plan, or else marry him yourself. And while you could make your precious social reforms while you're in power, your inbred offspring would surely tear them down to rubble with 2 generations anyhow. That made Nexus pause. She didn't really have much of a plan what to do after she took over. She had been working so hard on getting the takeover accomplished first, she hadn't considered the follow-up to be important at the time. At least, though, she had significantly more support from the populace than her mother seemed to realize. Isn't that the way with rebels? They plan, they didn't realize they don't have a plan for what to do after they win! Perhaps you're right, Mother. I'd like to go back to my cell to think things over. I'll give you my answer tomorrow. Not planning ahead seemed to be a fault of hers, but she decided this decision would be well thought out. Nexus noticed her eyes were closed, didn't seem to be paying attention. Mom? She asked again, faces responding with a and a pleasure looked on her face. Vexus's nipples had become stiff as pebbles, and as Nexus watched her mother with a brief shudder pass through her torso. A moment later, a cluster drone broke the surface of the wire in front of Vexus, as the Queen's eyes opened.
The royal vagina is clean, your highness, the drone stated doubtfully.
Excellent, Vexus purred, patting the drone affectionately on the head. Would you like to care to have a few minutes with the baiters before you go, Nexus? They're really quite skilled. Nexus sneered, keeping her distance from the drone that was regarding her rather eagerly. Some other time, perhaps. Rising out of the pool, Nexus didn't bother to cover herself, not caring that the attendants and guards were treated to full view of her naked tits, ass, and pussy. Her body drifted trail onto the floor as she walked to the nearest towels, wrapping one around herself and heading for the exit. Mom, could you have one of the servants send fresh clothing to my room? Something fit to give a speech in? Vexus grinned, pleased with what she was hearing. Of course, Nexus. Your wardrobe will be brought along right away. You know, hearing other kids saying those type of lines... Hubba hubba. Nexus left the room, the guards escorting her along a private corridor back to her old chambers, the room where she had abandoned when she first left her family. She went inside, leaving the guards out front to stand and watch to see before she could hope to attempt to escape. It felt good to have some privacy when she had so much on her mind. Nexus surveyed her old bedroom, almost exactly as she left it, minus the personal effects she had taken when she had left. She rummaged through an old yearbook from her high school back on Cluster Prime, and put it back on a small bookshelf next to her bed. Some pictures were set up on the end table. An old ex-boyfriend, her younger sister Vega, who she hadn't seen in ages, Nexus reminded herself, and a victory photo taken when she had won a school sporting competition a number of years back. Nexus sighed, throwing herself the bell and let the towel fall off her. It had been a long time since she had some of these creature comforts. Nexus stroked her hands down the length of her new body, reveling in the freshly bathed feeling while it lasted. Maybe her mother was right. Riding a billion had been exceedingly difficult, and crossing a wedding had been, to date, their largest accomplishment. She gave it up. She could have this all night, every night, again. Her favorite foods, nice things, even the bathers. Nixus let out a soft purr as she thought of one of her mother's servants descending between her legs, pleasuring her with his dexterous tongue. Unbidden, her hand made its way to her crotch, touching the delicate vaginal lips in the same places that Nixus imagined her lover's tongue was licking her. The soft waves of pleasure tingling through her body became too great a temptation for Nixus. She surrendered to her need, spreading her thighs apart to give her easier access to her excited pussy. She considered calling in one of the guards who joined her, but dismissed the idea. She was enjoying having some time to herself, relaxing without having to impress or charm anyone. Her fingers sped up the pace, stroking her increasingly wet folds in small circles. She kept this much longer. Nixus knew she would quickly rub herself off to a small but satisfying orgasm. She was in no rush, though. Losing resistance, she rolled over her front and got on her knees, almost squatting her hand as it basically faked her snatch. Nixus plunged 2 fingers into a dripping fuckhole, knowing that the right spots to touch to give herself a stronger, eternal orgasm. Her mind sorted through various erotic thoughts, looking for the right mental image to push herself over the edge. She imagined the room was filled with various males that she had met. So were Sel and Brad Cumberuncle being the newest additions. Out of the crowd, Nixus was most intrigued by the possibilities Brad presented. During limited amount of time on Earth, she hadn't really any contact with the human natives. Nixus mentally undressed her memory of Brad, curious about what a human male would look like naked. Without any further information from Nixus's mind filled in the blanks with the parts she had come to expect from male robots. The front would be the nanite injector, extended to ultimate length, the tiny stud of a belly bolt in his abdomen. Somewhere private would be the manufacturer imprint. Nixus sighed deeply, closing her eyes as her hand whipped her pussy into a froth. Her juices dribbled down into the bed below her, sparks occasionally jumping from the puddle as they expanded with electrical chemical energy onto the sheets, fantasizing about the human boy Brad was giving her a wonderful feeling being taboo. She wondered what it would be like to have a carbon-based alien like Brad have sex with her, filling her clean, sterile womb with filthy organic fluids. She knew there was no chance of pregnancy, of course, but her fantasy had added to the eroticism of the scene. Nixus giggled, imagining her swollen belly to her mother, whilst he fixed his reaction when she explained to her that the baby was half human. Feeling her arousal began to reach the point of no return, Nixus decided to throw herself all the way into it, doubling her efforts and allowing herself to moan and shout whenever she felt the words, "Look me, human, look me, mate with me with your big fleshy cock." Next, it was involuntary, ground her hips against the bedding, imagining her lover to be laid out under her as she drove his manliness into her body. Finally, her release came, Nix's back tensing and legs trembling, whilst the fluids was spurting out into her fingers. When the climax passed, Nixus fell onto the bed, stretched out languidly, giggling at the tickling sensations of electrical jolts stemming from her spilled juices against her thighs. She was about to fall into a dreamless sleep when there was a slow pause. "Great performance, sis," taunted Nexus's little brother Brutus, stepping out from the doorway into the bathroom. Nexus shrieked, scrambling to cover herself with the bed sheets. "You were watching? You perverted little creep!" Nexus ground her sharp teeth in anger, glowering at her peeping brother. "If I wasn't naked, I'd leap across the room and strangle you with your own entrails right now." Bruce folded his arms across his chest and continued to ogle her, a smug grin on his face. "You get used to it, Sib. I overheard you talking with Mom. When she retires from the throne, you can either marry me or allow my Maris in XJ9. Nexus could see what he was getting at. If she married him, they would be required to consummate the union. If Bruce married XJ9 instead, he'd still be the ruler of the cluster and have the power to make Nexus into his concubine or slave or whatever he wanted, so as long as he kept it a secret from XJ9. What do you want? Well, I was going to see if you wanted to get the head start on that grandchild Mother wants so badly, but I can see you developed other tastes during your time away from the cluster. Bruce casually made his way to the door, to look back at his naked older sister. Sex with a human? That's just gross, Nexus. Bruce let the door closing behind him automatically. Nexus lay back on her bed, stomach turned by Bruce's words. She fell asleep after deciding the problem would be easier to solve in the morning. Deep down, she knew what she had to do. Jenny nuzzled her face against the warm body of her lover, purring in content as she woke from the meaningless dream. Gradually opening her eyes, the memories of where she was and what had been happening slowly rushed in Jane's waking mind. "Sheldon, wake up!" she whispered, sitting up and shaking her sleeping mate. A quick check of her internal clock told her it was approaching what could be circa noon on the ship. Jane wondered briefly why they had slept in for so long. Her systems were reading at being only 85 efficient. Wasn't the EM cannon's effect supposed to have worn off by now? Groggily, Sheldon rubbed his eyes and sat up.
Morning, Jenny. You slept good?
He asked, feeling around in darkness looking at his discarded clothing. Jenny asked him, getting up and going to the grate on the wall, flipping aside the seal and peeking onto the ship beyond. What she saw made Jenny grin. Utter silence. Not a single cluster robot to be seen. "I have no idea where they all went. But looks like the coast is clear, Sheldon. Get your clothes on. We can sneak out and get my old outfit back." Sheldon locked his chest plate back in place, then began working on his lower extremities.
Can't you just wear the dress they gave you until we get home? You have more copies of your blue skirt and top back on Earth.
Jenny frowned, lifting the dress off the floor for Sheldon's inspection. The formerly beautiful gown was now dirty, torn, and stained with Jenny and Sheldon's sex fluids from their lovemaking the night before.
Oh, never mind, he muttered.
As stealthily as possible, the two teenage robots made their way out, secluded back room and the ship beyond.
You know which way to go?
Asked Sheldon, following close behind Jenny. Jenny paused to check around the corner. Distinguished, everything was clear, proceeded along the twisting hallways of the ship's maze-like interior. When I was being prepared for the wedding, Queen Fexus took me on a tour of the ship. Don't know everything, but I do know the tailor shop and my old clothes should be right around here. Jenny was finished in a hushed voice, stopping dead in her tracks when she saw what lay around the next turn. The main promenade was filled with what must have been every non-essential passenger towards the ship. All assembled in front of a podium stood Nexus. The cluster princess was dressed in an elegantly formal piece of attire, just begun to address the crowd. "Citizens of the cluster, I am gathered here today to speak to all of you, in particular the members of the rebellion hidden amongst the populace. Rebellion that I organize and lead. I can no longer lead. I have been captured, stripped of my power. But I do have a message for any that would follow my example." Jenny and Sheldon watched unnoticed as Nexus delivered her speech to the silent crowd. On a balcony overlooking the stage, Fexus watched patiently to make sure everything went exactly as he intended.
"Here we are,"
said Brad, uneasy. His plan was a pretty shaky, to say the least. Last time he stormed Cluster 1, he had been accompanied by the two most powerful robots he had ever met, Silver Shell and Nexus, not to mention a platoon of Nexus's little resistance drone buddies. This time he had what? The only reinforcements that Earth had to offer, and a possibly crazy suicidal plan. Marvin kept reminding himself he should be at home right now, studying for high school or playing sports with his little brother. Bored stupid. Dangerous or not, this was what Brad wanted. Adventure. High risk, high stakes conflict. The cluster mothership came into view on the main screen. The cluster Brad had stolen. It was now or never. Hitting a few buttons on the control panel, Brad initiated the docking sequence. Obviously, no one knows the small craft had been missing during all the confusion of the previous day, or else someone had been paying attention. Their ship shook as the craft impacted against Cluster 1, breaching the hull but finding their point of entry. The exit hatch swung open. Brad stepped up to put his head and plan into action. "Never give up! Never surrender!" screamed Nexus, pounding her fist on the podium. Taking all her skill as a politician, but he had managed to excite a riot amongst the majority of the cluster citizens aboard the ship. Remaining rebellion agents, still planted in the audience, took to it immediately. Their enthusiasm encouraged the other citizens, even those who had never had prior sympathies for the rebellion. And to think, Nexus hated the lessons on leading the public that her mother had taught her when she was little. And where she could see, otherwise loyal cluster citizens were causing random destruction and facing symbols of royal authority. Nexus smiled, taking a perverse joy in the situation. Any second now, her mother, the Queen, would be arriving to kill her. "This was not what we agreed upon!" screeched Fexus, wings of Boris, who streaked down to the podium. "Ah, right on schedule." Nexus strikes a defensive person mostly out of instinct. Horror is still offline thanks to the EM attack from the day before Fexus could render her in half in seconds if she wanted to. If she was lucky, it'd be over quick, killed in a fit of rage. What Nexus was afraid of what would happen if her mother held back. She was positive Fexus was delivering much more massive punishments for her should she survive. As Fexus jumped closer, talons extended and eyes shining with rage, it looked like Nexus would get her wish. "Come on, Sheldon! We have to save her!" argued Jenny, trying to pull the much larger silver cell towards the action.
Sheldon pleaded, "Jenny, this isn't our fight. We should use this rain as a distraction to cover our escape. We can forget about your clothes. We'll just punch through the hull and fly home, okay?"
Jenny let go of Silver Cell's arm, looking Sterling in the eye. "Nexus is the only reason I'm not married to Bruce right now. She came to my rescue. I'm not just going to abandon her now. You can stay here if you're scared. I had to do something. It's what I was built for." Sheldon shut up. Jenny took his silence as agreement. Pausing a half second to give him a quick pick on the cheek,
Jenny took off, flying off at high speed towards Fexus and her soon-to-be victim.
"Stop right there, Fexus!" shouted Jenny, landing rapidly to diminishing space between the Queen and her daughter. Fexus came to a sudden halt, her expression of rage replaced with confusion. "Jennifer, you realize you're naked?" Jenny heard Rom's disgruntled, "Yes, I'm aware," she said, gritting her teeth. "Well then," said Queen Fexus, regaining her composure. In a flash, Fexus bolted forward, both arms striking out like vipers going through Jenny's throat. Jenny seized Fexus by the wrist, stopping the attack from its target. "I see you're regaining your strength," purred Fexus, looking in eyes with Jenny. The two stood virtual statues, testing their strength against each other. Fexus's claws slowly creeping closer to Jenny's neck. "Nexus, run! I can't bite you time forever!" Nexus seized the opportunity Jenny had been affording her, running, bolting from the stage. Hopefully she could get lost in the crowd, try to locate some of the resistance agents, steal a small ship, and recruit elsewhere. No such luck, Nexus realized, when she found herself surrounded by a trio of Fexus' elite bodyguards. Nexus staggered back up the steps, looking for some way around the robots menacing her with their sidearms. The one in front cocked his weapon, squinting an eye shut as he prepared to fire at the defenseless Nexus' head. The pistol was knocked from his grip by a burst of laser fire, scorching the hand of the lead guardsman. Nexus and the trio all turned to look where it came from, and forced to crane their necks higher and higher to see Silver Shells confidently approaching them. Eyes still faintly glowing with energy. "You're all wrong, XJ9, taunted Fexus, her claws finally closing around Jenny's neck. "But I'm still stronger." With ease, Fexus hoisted Jenny from the ground and flung her to the podium, reducing the oxygen to splinters. "Why are you defending her anyway? You're better than her," asked Fexus. When Jenny pulled herself from the wreckage of the podium, Fexus had disappeared from sight. "That's why I offered you the throne. That should have been hers," continued Fexus, appearing behind Jenny by stepping from a portal she had torn the fabric of space. Jenny spun around by the sound of her opponent's voice, just in time to receive a vicious backhand across the face. "Still a lot slower, too." She was right, too. But why? All her systems were functioning. The effects of being hit by the EM cannon were completely gone, so why was he still at only 85% power? What were the last 15% going? Fexus kicked Jenny in the air, crashing her to the floor several feet away, scaring her thoughts. Jenny set out to find that Fexus had disappeared into the metal tear again, which means he was toying with her. Jenny spotted Nexus and Silver Cell to the side, defending themselves against a growing number of cluster warriors. Sheldon had beaten several to a pulp already, but he wasn't programmed for combat like Jenny was. Very soon the cluster would overwhelm him, then Nexus would be caught as well. Jenny felt a bony hand seize her by the back of her head, followed by slamming her face to the ground. "Ugh!" groaned Jenny, stunned by the pain of the attack. Sometimes having nerve endings really sucked. Fexus stepped back to reality, lifting Jenny's head out of the ground and dragging her to her Silver Shell Nexus a bit back to the corner. "I'm so disappointed in you girls," Fexus chided. With a growl, she tossed Jenny's limp form at Silver Shell, who lowered his fist in time to catch her. "You spend so much effort in following a plan that's ultimately in your best interests, even if you don't fully comprehend it." Fexus paused, turning to look at Silver Shell. "You, I could care less about. Somebody go get the EM gun." "Right here, mother!" so exclaimed Brutus. emerging from the chaos of the promenade, looking at the camp behind him. That's good, Brutus. Do mommy a favor and put that one out as miss. The room shook with a thunderous collapse. An entire wall collapsing as a cluster of patrol craft came bursting in through the bug hole. Everyone remained still, shocked at the sudden intrusion from the conflict. The ship's hatch swung open. Ladies and gentlemen, the following cameo is probably one of the most awesome cameos you'll ever see in this fic. Your head will explode. Emerged a sleek white robot with black boots and black briefs, a colossal black cannon attached to his right forearm. Even the rioters paused, falling silent before this titan of robot kind. Queen Vexus, I am known as Megatron, the mightiest of Decepticons and defender of Earth, and I demand your release, Jenny. Oh, I love a good Transformers appearance! Fucking woot. Oh, really? laughed Vexus. Brutus, give him a taste of our latest military achievement. Into it, Smithy! Exclaimed Brutus with glee, leveling the EM cannon at the approaching Megatron. Megatron stopped a few steps away from Brutus, with his hands on his hips to laugh at Brutus's face. Go ahead and try, Spec. Megatron bellowed, and Brutus growled, fired a cannon point blank at Megatron's chest. A burst of light, forcing everyone present to momentarily look away. When they looked again, Megatron was still standing tall, and reached forward to grab the EM cannon by the muzzle. Fool! Your weapons are like toys against the might of Earth's champion. I'm just wondering how we got shattered glass, Megatron. Mother! Help me! Shrieked Brutus, struggling to pull the EM cannon away from Megatron's grip. Vexus snarled, I don't care who you are. You will leave my boy alone. Vexus slashed into the dimensional tear, ducking into it and disappearing from sight as soon as it sealed behind her. Get it! Get in! Screamed Brutus as he and Megatron tugged the EM cannon back and forth between them. No, you give it. Returned Megatron, struggling to pull the weapon away. Tense and occupied, Megatron failed to notice its fabric of space burst open between him. Raised Vexus emerging with her fangs bared and talons pointed to strike. As this Vexus attack, Megatron gave a mighty heave, coincidentally occurring at the exact same moment that Bruce's grip slipped, releasing the EM gun. Everything seemed to move in slow motion, each party aware, but unable to course the offense. Megatron slipped backwards, pulling the EM can with him. As he fell, Vexus's claws slashed out, determined to slice the intruder in two, but missing their mark and cutting into the weapon instead. The housing of the EM gun tore open like paper. From the rip, an electromagnetic pulse was channeled directly to Vexus. Right before her son's eyes, Vexus shook and went limp, pupils dilating, her eyes rolling up to her head. Last anyone saw the dry cluster clean was her comatose body dropping backwards into the portals he emerged from, seconds before it closed up into nothingness. The only evidence that Vexus had ever been in at all were the claw marks on the ruined cannon. No! Nanny! Screamed Brutus, falling to his knees, tears welling up in his eyes. Jenny was now having recovered her wits, ran over to the toppled Megatron lying on the floor. Several cell and Nexus following close behind. Jenny crouched down to see if the robotic hero was okay, and was shocked to see Megatron reach up over his head. The smiling face of Brad beamed out there, sweating and shaking, but otherwise fine. Okay, show of hands! Who thinks it would have been awesome that was really a Nickelodeon version of Megatron? Not just me. Anyway, okay, thank you. Brad! Jenny exclaimed happily. I can't feel like I'm not the only one who was blue-balled here. Brad looked up at her, calmly replied, Jen, you're naked. Yeah, I know. Jenny sighed while rolling her eyes. Jenny hugged Brad tightly, then looked down at the robotic body she still wore. So, what's all this? She asked, when Sheldon interrupted. That's a limited edition Megatron and Decepticons plastic Halloween costume circa 1989, which has been removed from its original packaging, ruining its collector's value. Brad just grinned seriously. Sorry, bud. Raiding your Transformers collection was one of the key points of my rescue plan. But hey, it worked, right? Again, would have loved it if we actually had the bots. Sullen grumbled, but was silenced when Bruce's voice broke into the Chris reunion. Hate to interrupt, but you're under arrest! It faces his gun. That leaves me in charge! Behind Brutus stood what remained of Queen's soldiers. About 30 altogether. Still, Jenny, Silver Cell, and Nexus were all weakened by various degrees, and their ace in the whole had just been revealed to be a powerless human. All around the cluster citizens watched, remained neutral until one group emerged as the victor. Bruce knew this. You, human, will pay the price for what you've done! I think I'll send you to the chefs, be processed into a new batch of custard! Or you would... Nexus said, Brad, we're not holding Nexus to her feet. Except I still have one trick up my sleeve. Before Bruce could react, Brad raised 2 fingers to his mouth, blew a sharp whistle. Moments later, a hulking figure came lumbering out of the crass cluster shell that Brad had emerged from. Kenny? Started Jenny, recognizing her old boyfriend. Oh, hey, Jenny. Did you know that you're naked right now? I know! Stuttered Jenny through her tightly gritted teeth, making a small effort to cover her up by holding her hands over her small breasts. Kenny, care to clear us an exit? Asked Brad quietly. Kenny nodded, pressed Brad to mount for salute. They proceeded to unfurl a veritable arsenal of weapons on his arms, shoulders, and torso. In less than 30 seconds, Bruce's forces had been zapped, shot, blasted, fried, and disintegrated by various beams and projectiles from Kenny's armament. Somehow, Bruce managed to dodge and weave past the worst of it, sprinting towards Nexus. Instead of burst of agility, Bruce sprang past Jenny and Sheldon, leaping onto his sister's front and clinging to her collar. Quick flick of his wrist produced a wicked-looking blade for Bruce's forearm, once he pressed firmly against Nexus's throat. Everyone get away from me! I'll kill her, I swear! Not my boot! Bruce was roughly yanked off his older shoulder, Kenny's large hand seizing him by the scruff of his neck. Kenny turned to Severus Prince around to face him. Keeman suspended off the ground. That's no way to treat a lady, lectured Kenny, glowering down at Brutus. Brutus said nothing, but could only quiver in fear. Soon enough sprang a leak, and was dribbled down to Kenny's feet. Kenny's eyes shone red, and his face began to change, taking on a feral, even canine shape to it. The others looked away, hearing only Kenny's growls and Bruce's mews of fear. A few moments later, Kenny had returned to his more human look, and Bruce looked as though he'd been run over by a truck. Thank you, said Nexus, approaching Kenny and placing a hand on his arm. You're welcome, ma'am, said Kenny pleasantly. Brad sat up. I suppose you two never formally introduced. Kenny, Nexus. Nexus, meet Kenny. Both Kenny and Nexus hadn't taken their eyes off each other, though. Boop! And the other three noticed, exchanging a silent look between them. Come on, said Jenny. Let's get home. I really need to get some clean clothes on me. Yeah, what's up with that, anyway? Asked Brad, removing the Megatron costume and passing the chest and cross pieces over to Jenny until they could locate her real clothes. Long story short, the cluster took my clothes. I'll explain more some other time. For now, I just want to get back to Earth. Jenny started walking towards Brad's cell, then stopped to address Kenny and Nexus, who had been quietly conversing between themselves. You coming, Jenny? She asked, noticing Kenny was holding Nexus's hand. Actually, guys, I think I'm going to stay here for a while, he answered, surprising everyone. I never had the kind of freedom you had, Jenny. To see the world or explore outer space. Since my dad pulled me out of school, I barely get to leave the house. I think I'd like to see more of the cluster. Nexus stepped forward, further explaining. With Vexus and Brutus out of the picture, I'm the only remaining member of the royal family. Kenny's strength would be helpful for rounding out any remaining loyalists still around, but honestly, she slid a hand to indicate the gathered masses of commoners, many of whom were cheering for Nexus's victory. I don't think we'll have any real trouble with that. Well, if that's what you want. One by one, they said their goodbyes. Jenny gave Kenny a kiss on the cheek, for all time's sake, and exchanged contact with Nexus, promising to stay in touch. Solid gave Nexus one good hug goodbye, and he and Kenny performed a secret handshake they invented while competing at the Robotics Expo. Brad shook Kenny's hand and thanked him for all his help in the rescue operation, then said goodbye to Nexus, pulled him close and whispered to him that he should stop by for him, so he could give him a more private thank you for saving her cluster from Tyrus' fancy. A few hours later, Jenny, Sheldon, and Brad were headed home in a short-range cluster spacecraft. Sheldon and Brad chatted casually about their adventure, while Jenny remained unusually quiet. In truth, she was concentrating on tracking down the source of her missing 15% of her energy output by performing a full internal systems diagnostic. Just as Sheldon and Brad got to the point where the conversation had turned to a discussion of vintage Transformers episodes. No better opportunity than that, you ask me! There was silence when Jenny suddenly gasped in shock. She had discovered where the missing 15% was going. So remember, kids, if you are alone with your unbelievably hot girlfriend in the middle of a battlefield and you don't know where you're going to survive the next day and you're going to bang her, I don't care where you are, always remember to bring protection, otherwise this could happen. Thank you, good night!